It was a gloomy morning in 2014. The sky over London hung heavy and gray above the city. In a small, sterile hospital room, a man sat alone. No stage, no applause, just the hum of the fluorescent lights above him. He was here because something was wrong. For weeks, he had felt a strange scratch in his throat. At first, he ignored it. Probably just a cold, maybe the dry air on the plane. After all, he traveled a lot. But the scratch wouldn't go away. It got worse. And now he sat here, waiting, his stomach in knots. The door opened. The doctor stepped in, sat across from him, and looked at him with a serious expression. The results are in. A moment of silence. It's a tumor, malignant, right on your tongue. The words hung heavy in the air. He heard them, but his mind refused to process them. A tumor on his tongue. The weapon with which he sang. The instrument that had carried him across the greatest stages in the world. He wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. The next few weeks felt like a nightmare from which he couldn't wake. Chemotherapy, radiation, the taste of metal in his mouth, the pain that kept him up at night. He lost weight, lost strength. At some point, he could barely speak. The doctors told him the treatment was working, but they couldn't promise his voice would ever be the same. And that was where the real battle began. Anyone else might have withdrawn, given in to the inevitable, but he wasn't just anyone. As he fought through the treatments, he thought about everything he could lose. The music, the stage, the fans who had followed him for decades. He remembered the roar of a sold-out stadium, the energy when thousands of people raised their fists and chanted his name, the adrenaline when the first guitar riff hit. He also remembered his family, his children, everything worth living for. And so, despite everything, he began to train. Every day, even when it hurt. He hummed, he spoke, he forced his voice back to life. He imagined himself singing again one day. But then came the setback. His first attempts at singing a melody sounded foreign, rough, broken. He didn't recognize himself. Maybe it just won't work, a voice in his head whispered, but another voice, louder, said, maybe it will. So he kept going, day after day, and then, one day, after months of pain, came the verdict. The cancer was gone. The doctors had healed him. But would he ever sing again? He had to find out. A year after his diagnosis, he stepped back onto the stage. The first notes played. The crowd roared. He took a deep breath and sang. He sang with everything he had. His voice was there, different, deeper, maybe not as flawless as before, but it was there. And as he looked out at the crowd, at the raised fists, at the faces screaming for him, he knew he had made it. Today, at 66, Bruce Dickinson still stands on stage. The lights burn hot above him. The guitars scream. Thousands of fans sing along. He runs, jumps, races across the stage, as energetic as ever. Cancer could have broken him, but here he is, alive, singing, flying, writing. What saved him? Was it medicine, the chemotherapy that drove the cancer from his body? Or was it the music, the stage, the love of his fans, which left him no choice but to come back? Maybe it was both. Maybe true healing isn't just what doctors do, but also what keeps us alive. What do you think? If you want to learn more about Bruce Dickinson's incredible life, I highly recommend his book, What Does This Button Do? With humor and honesty, he shares his journey as a singer, pilot, fencer, and cancer survivor. It's not just a rock and roll biography. It's a story about courage, passion, and pushing beyond limits. A book for anyone who wants to know what it truly means to never give up.